The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Josh Shigala from the Standard.io.
Well, folks, it's another week. It's another week. Well, folks.
Martine Wishmayer from General Bytes.
Howdy ho.
Ben Ark from LN Bits.
Hello.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Binance launches proof of reserve system for Bitcoin. Ethereum coming in the near future. Yes, the collapse of FTX and Alameda Research might have actually done some good for the Bitcoin industry. Proof of reserves, which we talked about seemingly over 7 years ago, has now been implemented by Binance, one of the world's largest exchanges. Kraken, Vaultoro, and others have already launched proof of reserves, and we expect to see more proof of reserves in the future. Josh Shigala, what do you think about Binance stepping up to the plate and proving their reserves?
Yeah, it's a massive step forward. I think well done. Finally, it's very late in the game though. They should have done this. And actually, one of the biggest things that I'd like to see that I've seen now is that CoinMarketCap actually has a page dedicated to exchanges that list reserve. They haven't even listed Vaultoro, and we've been there since 2015. So but we at Vaultoro really, that was the whole point of launching Vaultoro, because when we invented the Glassbooks protocol, which is actually easier to read than proof of reserves, which is by the protocol by Gregory Maxwell and Peter Todd. It's just easier to read. That just gives you a tick. But if you don't understand Merkle trees and stuff, you kind of just have to trust a tick. So yeah. But anyway, the only issue I see with proof of reserves is that there's no real proof of liabilities. And because an exchange could go off to a bank or something and say, hey, we've got all these assets, can we have a loan? And it's all on paper, you don't know. So this is the issue with proof of reserves. You don't see the proof of liabilities. That's the great thing with decentralized finance, with DeFi. When you lock up assets into a smart contract, you know how many people are borrowing against the asset, you know how much assets are in there, everything's transparent and in the system, and the legals are, it's regulated by code. So I think at the end of the day, people should just head towards DeFi and drop centralized finance altogether.
Well, and previously, Josh, there was one exchange that proved their reserves and then transferred the money out the next day. It turned out it was a temporary loan put up to prove the reserve. So it's very difficult to say whether they're proving it or if they've proved it just once as like a magician's trick to fool you and then keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And this was the good thing about the Glassbooks protocol. It was real time, constant. So anybody could check in real time, and we wouldn't know that they're checking, so we couldn't fiddle with the numbers. But when we shipped it around to all of these exchanges, they didn't want to take it. And I figured, well, it's because they're in fractional reserve, so let's just build our own exchange. And that's actually how Vaultoro got started. Yeah, but anyway, it's good to see that Binance is doing it. At least it's a step in the right direction. I definitely think DeFi is better than CeFi.
It's also difficult for these companies to match any other kind of reserve, such as real estate or dollar holdings or anything that's not crypto. It can't be proved in the same way. Martine Wishmayer, what do you think about Binance showing their reserves?
I agree with you that it shows the crypto reserves, but it might not show the euro and dollar reserves that are on there. And I don't know, it doesn't really confide me with a lot of trust. If I see all the shit coins listed, then that gives me distrust. So yeah, it wouldn't work for me. I noticed though that others like Nexo, they've got a third party that does the auditing for them, also in this Merkle tree style proof of reserve. So it's something many exchanges are working on. I think it's should be mandatory. So yeah, maybe something good comes out of this whole FTX drama after all. So yeah.
And do you also think that it'll lead to people using exchanges like they're supposed to be, like an exchange where you go on there, buy something for something else, and then take it off there, maybe even putting it into your own home cold storage?
I always tell people that an exchange is not a bank. They have a totally it's a different type of company, and the exchange, well, often runs away with your money. Well, banks can't be trusted with it either. So the only way is store it in your wallet, on your own hardware wallet. I mean, if you're buying for hundreds of crypto, then at least spend the first $60 on a proper wallet. It will save you a lot of headaches later.
And it's funny because in many ways, Satoshi invented Bitcoin because he was upset about the banks and how they'd been managing their money and their mortgages and all the other things they were doing, mortgage-backed securities and so forth. But then, of course, the immediate thing that humans did is created places like Coinbase and blockchain.com where you could store your keys with them and you can trust them that everything will work out fine. Ben Ark, what do you think about Binance and their reserves?
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction, and big props to Josh for trailblazing, and then also Kraken for more recently for kind of setting the bar that exchanges should be having these proof of reserve systems put in place. So now Binance are following suit, and they do also plan to have regular auditing as well, which is good. You know, an outside body coming in and auditing the books. Currently, it's just for Bitcoin. Then they're going to try and do it for Ethereum and all the things. But currently, yeah, it's just for Bitcoin, and they have 500,000 Bitcoin, which is quite incredible. So it's like 570,000 Bitcoin, which they can, you can use these Merkle trees to say, yeah, they do have the Bitcoin. Whether they have the private keys, I don't know. So I can't imagine this system is all like in a hot wallet. Some of it's going to be in cold storage. So there is a bunch of things which can go wrong, and that's why I suppose you have like a mix and match approach, and then you have some external auditors coming in. Who also verify that the funds are there. But it's just such an eye-watering amount of money these people have. Quite incredible. There's 500,000 Bitcoins on Binance right now. Pull them off, people.
It's kind of like when McDonald's had those signs and it said millions and millions served. They should put a little counter on the corner of Binance of how much you trust them. You trust them 500,000 Bitcoin worth? That's an incredible amount of trust that we're extending to a company that doesn't even really have a home address.
I guess, this is why they're putting these things in place, because people, we built these amazing tools. Again, like Josh said, we have all this DeFi stuff and got this cryptographic technology. We barely making use of these tools. I mean, just having the funds being able to order. I mean, that's like a fairly basic function of what you can do with Bitcoin. You can trace where coins are. Ultimately, people shouldn't be using these centralized exchanges, and we should all move to decentralized exchanges at some point. But I suppose if people do, then having these safe measures in place really helps. But it's quite incredible that we're able to make the same mistakes again with this new technology, which is supposed to prevent those mistakes.
Well, you see the same discussions out everywhere. They're like, it's too hard to have a hardware wallet. It's too difficult to learn this stuff. But if you had your money in FTX and you'd bothered, like Martin said, to buy a $60 hardware wallet, even if you'd only transferred half of your funds out of the centralized exchange, you would get to keep half of your funds. They wouldn't be gone. You wouldn't have to worry every time you read the newspaper or news.google.com. Let's move on to the exit question, competing against the Bitcoin predictor ball, the greatest and most knowledgeable predictor of all Bitcoin. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? We did see a little bump upward, maybe a short squeeze. Then we went immediately back down. Josh Shigala, are you optimistic or pessimistic?
I'm optimistic. It's been a long winter, and the weekends have sold. Unless there's a big another calamity, which is sort of some sort of contagion, which is highly likely also. So, but I get even if that happens, like you saw with the FTX thing has been so grand and magnificent in its despicableness. But the price really, it knocked it down, but it sort of has been surprisingly just going sideways, and that was the end of it. Now it's sort of heading back up. So I think the weekends have left a long time ago. The strong hands are just holding on, and that shock in the system was just the last of them. And now, yeah. But saying that, on a wider macro market, the crypto, it doesn't matter what crypto if the whole global market starts to really have a massive disruption, we'll see. The good thing is, usually Christmas brings spending stimulus. So yeah, I doubt it'll happen this month.
Martin, higher or lower?
Actually, I think we'll be higher this time next week. I emptied my entire bank account and brought it to the exchange and bought Bitcoin. Then transferred it to my wallet. But yes, I am super bullish this week. Bitcoin will end higher.
Incredible optimism. Also, I emptied out my centralized exchange accounts and took the losses. So, of course, that's another important bottom sign. Ben Ark, higher or lower?
I'll go with that one else higher. Although I've got a feeling in my gut that maybe, yeah. I just feel like we've had that there was a lot of FUD. I mean, the FTX thing was obviously awful, terrible, but there was plenty of negative news cycles around it, which got people very scared and loosened their grips on the Bitcoin, and they started selling their Bitcoin. But I'm just, and then I kind of felt that maybe we oversold, but I'm kind of feeling that maybe there is still some downward pressure to come. But yeah, I'll go with everyone else higher.
Incredible optimism. Obviously, we're looking at a huge fall here. Let's see if the ball agrees. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher this time next week? Very doubtful. Very doubtful, says the pessimistic ball. And I also want to go with a bonus exit question here because I'm just curious to see what you guys think. To me, crypto has always been a generic term for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. It's like Kleenex or Band-Aids. It's a generic catch-all that people use. But lately on Twitter and other places, there's been a movement to separate Bitcoin from crypto. And while I do think that Bitcoin's different than all the other altcoins, I don't think that we can ever separate from crypto, which is part of our brand name. It's part of cryptography. It's part of how the system works. I just want to get your guys' opinion really quick. Josh, what do you think about Bitcoin versus crypto?
Yeah, I mean, this is the World Crypto Network, and you guys, this channel specifically has been just mainly about Bitcoin for years. And of course, we cover the bits and other pieces, but it's ridiculous. This is cryptography is the cornerstone of what made Bitcoin. The cypherpunks tried to use cryptography to have a rare digital asset. And so some people never liked the word crypto, especially cryptographers, because they're like, no, crypto means cryptography. And so, yeah, but they're not trying to separate that. They're just trying to separate Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah, I think it's really odd. Like they're trying to do damage control, and I just don't think they're going to get damage control. And then they're kind of angering all the people who do like crypto and who are interested in more than just one coin, which is, up to you. You make your own decisions.
I say there's crypto and then there's altcoins.
Exactly. And and that's a whole nother argument. Maybe we call them other coins. But Martin Wishmayer, what do you think about Bitcoin versus crypto?
Yeah, well, okay, Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency, the original cryptocurrency. So yes, crypto, but crypto has been abused so often in so many scams that I think in 99% of all the cases where you see crypto, blockchain, not Bitcoin, it's like take your money and run. I mean, it's a scam. So I do understand the whole sentiment, like, we're not part of crypto. We are Bitcoin. But yeah, you can't deny that Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency. So yeah. I think we should have been the World Bitcoin Network, though.
Well, historically, we would have done that if James D'Angelo hadn't gotten to it first. James, who did the Bitcoin Blackboard series, which is a great series. He was a professor and he drew things on a board. It's unbelievable to watch it. Bitcoin's like at 300 and he draws this, S-shaped curve and we're riding the top of it now. But for a couple episodes there, James was calling himself World Bitcoin Channel or something like that. And we're like, well, we can't steal from this guy. And plus we thought crypto was a level up where we could discuss everything. And I think it's a catch-all for me. Ben Ark, what do you think about Bitcoin versus crypto?
Yeah, I'm one of those people where, crypto is cryptography. That's what it's short for. It's for short for cryptographers. When you talk about crypto industry, talking about the industry of cryptography. And then you have Bitcoin, which is a cryptocurrency. And then I think it's like a co-option of the word crypto. I don't like it. I think it should be stuck for cryptography. And I think these are cryptocurrencies. I call them digital currencies. That's probably more fitting for the wider industry because there's a whole bunch which don't really rely on cryptography. So yeah, digital currencies, and then Bitcoin, and then we're using cryptography. So when anyone talks to me and they say, "Oh yeah, I love Bitcoin and crypto," I'm like, and I know they're talking about cryptocurrencies and these digital currencies. It kind of makes me wince, and I always think, cryptography. And I feel sorry for all those cryptographers who, it must really rub them up the wrong way. So yeah, no, I'm one of those assholes. Sorry.
There are three Unix guys with long white beards who are cheering Ben's answer, but there's only 3 of them. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2, New York governor signs proof of work mining moratorium into law. Yes, once again, New York leads the way, as they did with Benjamin Super Nintendo Losky and the Bit license, in banning new technologies. As predicted on this show, proof of work has been separated from proof of stake, and proof of work is the enemy. New York says no more proof of work mining because it's dirty. Martine Wishmayer, what do you think about New York's stunning decision to be first once again? Got to unmute there.
Sorry, the unmute button was gone. Yeah, I think it's really bad. It's probably lobbying by environmentalists or this Ripple pre-mine scam guy that just want to get rid of proof of work. I think it shows that they don't understand what it actually is. On the other hand, maybe they do, and they want to get rid of it because traditionally New York was like a finance hub, and Bitcoin is more of a sort of finance power play from Silicon Valley. So these two don't match very well. So yeah, I think it's ridiculous. Bitcoin will not be censored like this. New York, okay, maybe no New York, but I don't know. Most of the mining is not in New York anyway.
I think the really disappointing part is that Adam Back won't be able to visit New York. So we're essentially denying all of New York State of the wisdom of Adam Back. Ben Ark, what do you think about New York and their POW mining moratorium?
I think it's good. It's a good bill because it's not banning proof of work. It's banning Bitcoin mining using fossil fuels, and it's saying quite openly within the bill that they're open to Bitcoin mining with renewables. And it's also not a ban. It's it's stopping issuing new licenses, allowing people to set up big Bitcoin mining operations in New York State, largely off the back of a controversy around, I think it's called greenage energy generation. They do some Bitcoin mining in somewhere in New York, and they produce a lot of horrible smells, and the locals have complained about it. And these New York senators have reacted, as you do from public opinion. There was a great proposal by the BTC policy folks at btcpolicy.org about a year ago, where they suggested, because there's already measures in place for regulating data, computer data centers, and stop it from having too much of an environmental impact. And you can just apply that exact same legislation to Bitcoin proof of work mining. And it's a little bit more nuanced, and I think that with this bill, they're going for kind of a PR piece. It's just a shame that in the PR piece that it just kind of comes across as they're banning proof of work, which is ridiculous. But absolutely, they can ban companies from using fossil fuels to mine Bitcoin. These are big operations operating in local communities, and people can ban them. But it's cool that they're staying open to renewables, and I think it will, pressure from above on miners is probably one of the ways in which a lot of our Bitcoin mining industry is going to switch to use of renewables. So I'm all for the bill. I wish it'd been done in a more nuanced way and using the suggestions by the BTC policy folks a year ago. But sadly, I don't think that maybe the Senator Kathy, whatever her name is, she didn't read about their work, which they've done, which is very academic, good work. and they went for this kind of PR piece, so whatever, this bill. But ultimately, I don't think it's particularly a bad thing. I think it's probably a good thing. And the sort of regulation which needs to come down from government on these mining operations. They're not these cypherpunk crypto anarchists. They're big public entities, using all this energy, producing all this sound and noise and heat, and having to get rid of it. And they can be regulated by governments, and they should, and it will push people towards mining operations, towards using renewables. And sorry, just to go back to what I was saying, they're just, so current people mining in New York, they can continue to mine, but within this 2-year period, they're not going to be issued any more licenses, but their licenses last for 2 years. So if they're able to get a license now, then they can continue to mining throughout this 2-year period. And then it will just stop any new operations if they want to mine with fossil fuels.
You do have to be careful with the United States and licenses, though. When they passed the Marijuana Stamp Act of the 1920s, they said anyone with a license can grow marijuana, but they never gave out any licenses. Josh Shigala, what do you think about New York and their ban?
Yeah, this is the same thing with the UK and the FCA and their licenses. They say anyone with a license can operate, but they don't. They just make it almost impossible. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like the don't say gay bill. This is sort of like just pronounce a different word, a different name for a bill when you think, oh, what, they're banning mining, when really, like Ben spelled out, they're not actually banning mining. It didn't say don't say gay. It's nothing to do with it. They just don't want to mutilate children. So this is the thing. These bills. Look, I don't care. The government's gonna, if you think you want to ban something, that's what governments do. They ban stuff. There's a great documentary, by the way, everyone, called The Great Global Warming Swindle, which is fantastic. It's actual really good, but like a lot of really top scientists talking about, getting outside of the fear and the mongering and just talking about the actual data. So it's a great documentary. You can find it on BitChute and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin mining, we've said it before on the show, proof of work actually pushes forward the renewable energy thing anyway, because people will need to find cheaper and cheaper energy, and there's nothing actually cheaper than water running down a waterfall. It's just there. You just need to stick a wheel on it. Yeah, so it's whatever, go for it. New York, ban another thing. Actually, the trouble is, we're now in a hyper growth of AI, and the whole world is going to be, the internet is going to go from 99% bots to 99.999999999% bots, and you won't know if you're talking to a bot or you're human or anything. The only thing, so I think a lot of the answers to that problem will be proof of work, where people will demand some sort of proof of work to talk to me, so that I know that you've paid something. And if they actually ban proof of work, then maybe they'll just be spammed to all hell.
Well, very few people know that the NASA scientists in the 1960s, when they sent men to the moon, they based all of their scientific evidence on video documentaries. Yes, video documentaries. Let's move on to the next issue. You could go and you have more on proof of work. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say as well, like, and more pressure on these big mining operations makes it more profitable for people to mine at home as well. And then also for these, these other mining operations, which are smaller mining operations, using something like Josh said with hydro, which there's plenty of good work being done in, I think it's Nigeria, with the mini hydro stations, which provide a small grid for like a town or two. And I think it's Obi from Fedimin, he's going in and he's offering investment, and they expand the energy production operation, and they use the mining, Bitcoin mining, to as a way of capturing some profit for themselves. They just say, yeah, we'll make it bigger for you, but we're going to take this % of the energy produced to mine Bitcoin. So stuff like that, it makes targeting these big fossil fuel operations makes these more interesting Bitcoin operations more profitable, which is good.
And it's cold in New York as well. They could use the heat from the mining to heat their homes. But don't think about that now. Moving on, check out the World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got more than 3,000 videos. You could watch the shows for 3 months and 14 days straight. Exactly, without sleeping. Check them out at worldcryptonetwork.com. We've got podcasts too. Issue 3, U.S. Senators urge Fidelity to stop offering Bitcoin 401k retirement plans. Yes, Senators Warren, Dick Durbin from Massachusetts, and Minnesota's Tina Smith expressed concern about the crypto market's volatility, highlighted by the collapse of the Bahamian exchange FTX, which was advertised on television by Tom Brady, Giselle Bundren, Larry David, and so many more, with no penalties given at all yet. Ben Ark, what do you think about the idea for U.S. senators to ask Fidelity to stop offering Bitcoin retirement plans?
This is a way in which pension funds can get exposure to Bitcoin. I think the main issue, I suppose, is, with a pension fund, it's quite important that, you have low risk asset classes, which you can make use of. But you still have like volatile assets in the portfolio, in the pension fund's portfolio. That's just a very small percentage. It's like a high risk, high return, part of your portfolio. So pension funds can still have that. It's more the actual asset class, isn't it, I suppose, which can't be subject. You can't have too much of it in your portfolio. So I can see why they're saying this, because you want to protect the pensions, and we're in uncertain economic times, and the last thing we all want is for Bitcoin to have some part in destroying some of these pension funds. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's how we are in Bitcoin. And currently we're taking a step back, and some of the good work and progress we made is a step back. But that's okay, because, we need things like FTX not to happen again. And this is part of that process. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, mixed feelings.
Well, certainly in the United States, we already have laws against companies using customer funds to pay off debts of other companies. It also seems unlikely that you'd be able to steal the Bitcoin from Fidelity, because you can't withdraw it yourself. It's more locked in the system, right? So it seems very strange. I tied up with the ETF. Why don't we have a Bitcoin ETF? It seems like they're blocking certain people's access to this asset. While we've heard larger funds at these companies have been offered Bitcoin access years ago. Josh Shigala, what do you think about the Fidelity retirement issue?
Yeah, this is the typical thing of governments wanting to control what people do instead of relying on education and stuff. Like Ben said, any sort of financial advisor worth anything would put risky asset classes are really good for young people, because they can afford to earn stuff back. As you get older, you want to diversify that out and minimize risk and have more of a blue chip sort of a strategy. The other thing I don't understand is, let's pick on Bitcoin, but let's get old people to just press the button on the slot machines all day long. Let's allow them to bet on the horses all day long. Let's allow lotto games where the odds are ridiculously, basically zero. It's such hypocrisy and nonsense, and it's such a political move. Stupid.
It's interesting, the things we protect and the things we don't protect. For example, Amazon, maybe the greatest company in the world, their stock went down 40% like this year, 40%, which is unheard of in anything other than Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. We're down much more, of course, but the idea that they're protecting some people but not others, and all the time you can advertise, whether you're advertising the FTX Bahamas exchange, or if you're advertising your casino where you can buy stocks, or if you're advertising, like Josh said, an actual casino where the odds are even worse, directly against the players. I even think they have casinos in New York, or maybe they keep them in New Jersey.
And not just that, like Bitcoin is literally known for being volatile. Like, that's the only headline you ever see, is how volatile Bitcoin is. It's not like that's news to anybody.
Let's see what Martine thinks. Martine, what about the US's attempt to stop people from putting their retirement money in Bitcoin?
I think it's all part of the plan, to be honest. I mean, how on earth did this Sam Bankman, whatever, SBF manage to get all this money, get all the politicians, the guy from the SEC, everybody he got like involved, and then he blew it up. And then eventually it just exploded because the Bitcoiners found out there was something fishy going on. I think they wanted to just run this a little bit more, make it really implode big time, and then use that as an excuse to shut down every single one of them. While we all know that what happened has nothing to do with Bitcoin. It had everything to do with this Rob Ross or Bob Ross or whatever and his goblin girlfriend that ran a shitcoin casino from the Bahamas. They just ripped everybody off. This is he's doing a Bernie Madoff. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin. So Fidelity shouldn't suffer because the clown in the Bahamas was spending the customer deposits. It is as if this is premeditated plan to shut Bitcoin down, and that is not going to happen, I tell you.
To me, one of the most surprising things was to learn that FTX was in the Bahamas. I know they sponsored the stadium. I know they took over Blockfolio. Personally, I never thought about investing there. You know, I got a Coinbase account or whatever, but it's in the Bahamas. It's like a giant red flag, like tax evasion is central. Ben Ark, let's move on to the exit question. Why can't we have a Bitcoin ETF where anyone in the United States would be able to invest their stock market money, whether it be retirement or not, into Bitcoin? Is it part of these senators' fears that a perfectly good company, as far as we know, Fidelity Investments, major company in the United States, not in the Bahamas, regulated by US laws, and still these senators are afraid of something happening there, even though we know Fidelity, or we can pretty much assume, let's just be careful, that Fidelity Investments is not being run by a 30-year-old in the Bahamas in a polycule with all this other stuff going on. That seems like a 1 in a million thing that already happened. But why can't we have an ETF, Ben?
I mean, but this is the problem. It's not a 1 in a million thing, is it? Like, it's happened before. Hopefully this is the last time it's happened. But you would think that the Bitcoin industry is a little bit more evolved and less subject to, you know, a rug pull from some centralized point of failure, and that's what gets people worried. And it's interesting, you know, what Martin said. I think there's some truth in what he said. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We'll get there. Just gotta hold out and wait. We'll get our ETF eventually, and then no one will care. It'll just be like, it won't be like, oh, we've got an ETF. It'll be eventually, oh, okay.
Certainly,
Bitcoin now anyway.
Exactly. Most everyone who really wants to buy Bitcoin could have bought it by now. You don't necessarily need an ETF. Josh, what do you think about the ETF? Why can't we have nice things?
Well, first of all, the chat wants to see Ben naked in the sauna, not just sitting there with clothes. Just saying, just passing out. Don't shoot the messenger. Yeah, look, that's because America is full of nonsense. When they talk about freedom and free markets, they're just full of crap. In Europe, we've had ETFs. We're freer than them. So just saying, I don't know. It's just weird. It's just protectionist racket crap.
Martine, why can't we have an ETF where people can buy Bitcoin with their stock market money?
I think this is also done on purpose. They want to block it because they'll know Bitcoin will grow like crazy. And I hoped at the time that eventually Grayscale with Barry Silbert would convert to like an ETF instead of just like some stocks, or I don't know what they do. But looking at their books now, it doesn't seem like this will happen anytime soon because they're 2 billion short.
Well, I know last time with Mt. Gox, a lot of the keys were found underneath Mr. Karpellis's cat. So I suppose the only question left is, where is Sam Bankman-Fried's pussy? Jokes.
Probably on speed somewhere.
Oh,
running around like crazy on speed.
We're going to learn, and we're going to see so much more from those people than we want to know or see. Already rumors of a sex tape on the internet. So won't be on this channel, but it'll be out there. Moving on to issue 4. Bitcoin addresses holding at least 1 Bitcoin close in to 1 million. That's right. That means there's more than 1 million Wholecoiners. So at the very least, all of this promotion for Bitcoin or crypto or collapse coin or whatever you want to call it, it's working. It's getting the word out. There are 1 million Onecoiners. This isn't like just saying where there's a large exchange moving their money around. These are specific individual accounts, maybe held by one person. Maybe someone has more than 1 coin. My goodness. But yes, 1 million Bitcoiners. Josh Shigala, this is a huge celebration for Bitcoiners everywhere. We did it. FTX or no, 1 million Bitcoiners.
Wow. So who are the 1% and the 99% in this economy? I'm not sure. But you don't actually know, like, because they're addresses, they're not people. And yeah, no, it's cool.
1
it's
million
cool
addresses.
1 million addresses. Pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. I mean, that's solid. I like it. I don't really have much to say about it, but it's a cool statistic.
If you had to count to 1 million, it would take days and days, but we'll let Mr. Beast do that.
Yeah.
Martine Wishmayer, what about these 999 people that are now joining us? Isn't it great?
I have a mixed feelings about this because one, I read it on Cointelegraph, so the red flags already start popping up because it's a sensationalist article. And two, recently people have been withdrawing their funds to cold storage. So if you have all these Satoshis and little stacks and you bought these little bits and they're all in your wallet on the exchange and you just decide to withdraw them, then all of a sudden it might be just a bit more than 1 Bitcoin. And then you withdraw it to a single address. While before it was like stored on all these addresses, which were aggregated in your exchange wallet. So it might very well be that it is not a news article at all, that these people already had 1 Bitcoin on the exchange, but it was in all these little bits of wallets, a few sats here, a few sats there. And now that they withdrew it to their own wallet, now it shows them as, whoa, a Wholecoiner. So I think that's what's happening. I don't believe a thing that people are suddenly starting investing now the price has dropped, because they never do. They always buy when the price is up and they sell when the price is down. So I don't know what happened, but I think this is what's happening.
Well, a friend of mine back in the day, I don't want to say his name and get him in trouble, but he used to have to take his paper wallets and make them into smaller paper wallets because they were getting too big. So that same thing could be happening here. And as Martine said, Cointelegraph might not be the best, but check out that incredible art. Never before have you seen a Bitcoiner look so cool. Look at him with the hat and the Bitcoin shirt and pointing at it. Everyone's looking at it. They're all jealous. They're like, that guy has a Bitcoin. Whoa.
Their illustrator, I must say, is amazing. And I think they have been very consistent in always having a nice drawing with their article. I think there's like 2 of them with my photo picture in it, and I was amazed how quick they just created it. So yeah, kudos on that. Yeah, they make up for the usually very fastly written and sometimes inaccurate articles, but yeah, the graphics look stunning and yeah, super.
One time they even drew a couple pictures of mad Bitcoins. That was pretty neat too.
Mad Bitcoin.
Ben Ark, what do you think about 1 million addresses full of 1 Bitcoin?
What Martin was saying is interesting, actually. These people pulling their funds out of exchanges, and maybe that's partly prompted the Binance move. They've seen like an exodus of users' funds, and they're worried that people, because obviously if you haven't got your money on an exchange, you're less likely to press the buy and sell button, and they're less likely to get the fees, because it's a pain to go get the cold storage. You got on a hardware wallet kept somewhere in a safe or something. You got to get it out, plug it in, blah blah blah. Move the funds onto the exchange. You're less likely to make rash decisions. So it'd be interesting, of course, from the FTX stuff, if there's a side effect of people putting their funds into cold storage. But I think it's just the broadening of fund distribution. I think all of us knew or know people who had thousands of Bitcoin once upon a time, and then they've burnt through it. they haven't worked. They've bought fancy things and they've made bad investments. They're all, it's that classic anecdote of someone who just comes, easy come money, then easy go money. People come into money quickly and they tend to not spend it wisely, and they tend to party too much, and then they just burn through their stack. And there's a couple of price volatility. They try to do a bit of trading, that doesn't work out for them. And then before you know it, they've taken those thousands of Bitcoin and they've maybe just got a handful left. So yeah, as they've done that, those coins have been hoovered up by all these new participants. Some of them people with big, fat stacks, like the MicroStrategy guy. But in bear markets like this, those guys lose their grip and then they start to sell off Bitcoin as well and dump their Bitcoin. So I think it's just good. It's just a broadening and distribution of funds. And obviously, yeah, Cointelegraph, so could be complete fiction. They're in their special Cointelegraph universe. I remember Vitalik's picture when they did a Vitalik article, and they made Vitalik, so handsome, he was so big and buff, and he had like a big square jaw, and he was like in this great picture. And that's why everyone likes their pictures, because they make you look good.
It's only a matter of time before Ben Ark and the LN Bits get a Cointelegraph picture, and he changes his tune entirely. For the exit question, let's do another round of hardware wallet tips and tricks. Everyone's out there saying, I can't do a hardware wallet, it's too hard. Josh Shigala, what would you tell people about hardware wallets?
Stick with the ones that have been around for a while. Go to their actual website. Don't click on an ad on Google, and buy it from them, not on Amazon. And and then use it. But I still like paper wallets. I think paper wallets are really cool for Bitcoin only. I like them. I think I don't know, people have issues with them, but I think they're awesome.
You do have to be careful. Sometimes the JavaScript randomizer is not as random as it's supposed to be. It's a complicated math issue, but that's what I've heard could be the problem with paper.
Yeah, I mean, hardware wallets are great. Just make sure you don't follow ads or links or just try to go to the address, see it, type it in, because that's where they'll get you.
One of the things I like to say about hardware wallets, and I'm getting bored of it because I say it all the time, but you can buy more than one. You could buy 2 or 3 or 4. If your investment in Bitcoin or altcoins or whatever gets larger, you could put it in multiple places and split it up. And that way, if say this exchange dies or that exchange dies, you still have your hardware wallet. And if you have one in the safe deposit box and one in the other safe deposit box, and that bank burns down, but this bank survives, still got some of your funds. If you bury one under your house or leave it at somebody's house or bury it somewhere else, whatever it is, it's just, you could spread your money around, and it might seem like not that much money right now, but maybe in the future, 0.1 Bitcoin is 100K or something. And if you've managed to hold on to just one of those wallets through a more complicated system than putting all your eggs in one basket, which I think is a common failure, it's better to have more. You can buy 2 Trezors or 2 Ledgers or whatever you like. Martine Wishmayer, what do you think about hardware wallets? You're muted again.
Okay. That's it's really simple. If your missus or your girlfriend likes to buy a Birkin bag for thousands, and she makes an issue of you spending $150 on a fancy Bitcoin wallet, then there's something seriously wrong with your relationship. If you want to be cheap, go for a Trezor one. If you think they're ugly, no problem. You can use a leather, fix it into leather, make it a bit more chic. This one, I think it's awful, but I'm so totally going to ice it out with rhinestones over the Christmas period that it will look better than that rapper's ledger. If you think Bitcoin hardware wallets are complicated, don't buy a ledger. They're very French. Also, the whole instructions and stuff, it's super annoying. Get a Trezor. I'm not paid to say this, but over the years, I've been trying them all, and I really keep going back to my Trezor. It's nice. It works. It's not too complicated. Yes, the screen is a bit small, but it also allows you to just take it everywhere. the only thing you have to remember is that you generate the seed. If you buy it from a third party, don't do it. As Josh said, buy it from the original manufacturer. There is never a seed. You create the seed. If you want to have multiple wallets, you can reset it back to factory settings. As long as you keep the seed, you can generate another seed. You can even generate multiple wallets on a single wallet. So there is plenty of options. I always advise to like toy around with it, so that you feel comfortable using it, so that when you actually put Bitcoin on it, it's not as scary as you normally think. Like, oh, the Bitcoins are in this machine. Keep those seed words safe. There's plenty of ways. You can put them on a metal plate and then bury it in the garden. I'm not sure if that's really clever, because you can use a metal detector to just find them. You can use like a ultraviolet invisible ink and write it in a book, maybe a certain book. And then when you use UV light, you will be able to see those words. But do remember, those ink thingies don't last forever. It's like Josh's thermal paper prints for the paper wallet. Eventually they go, so make copies of it. Make sure you, in addition to the seed, you also create a password and a PIN, and you don't forget the password. That's very important, and you'll be fine. It's not that complicated. Use a rainy Sunday afternoon to learn about it, and make sure that your family also knows how it works, and then you'll be okay. You will be Bitcoin instead of just using Bitcoin. You will be Bitcoin, and you own your own Bitcoin. This is very important, guys.
And you don't have to worry when you read those headlines about such and such an exchange in trouble. You're like, oh yeah, my Bitcoin are, locked up in a safe place. And as Andreas has said many times, we're great with physical security. Things like safe deposit boxes and banks and other things are very complex, and we've figured them out. We're not great with cyber and digital security. It's relatively new. All kinds of things could happen, especially if you have a wallet that has Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or something like that. That could be a problem in the future. But writing down your words, keeping your words safe, these are very important things. And like Martin said, trying it out is a great idea. Ben, Ark, what are your ideas on hardware wallets? Go ahead, Martin.
The one thing I talking about wallets, I got this one at Bitcoin in Miami. It says an unknown CQX brand. I don't know, maybe it's really good, but the software isn't open source, so I can't check the software myself. And since it's this limited edition Bitcoin 2022 wallet, I'm not going to use it for my Bitcoin. So as Josh said, go for the wallet with the most street cred. In this case, it's probably a Trezor.
One time I did a test of a bunch of other wallets, and I put a small amount of Bitcoin in there, and then I put them all in like one bag. And my question will be, which one of these wallets will work in the future? And unfortunately, probably not many of them. The software is very tough to keep up to date. And it's pretty neat. I know Martin's leather covered wallet there, originally he would carry that around with him and somehow attach it to his Android phone and be able to hold his own keys even when he was spending for sodas and beers and stuff. But then we got him the nice leather case to protect against any future scratches and damage, because it was a weather worn Trezor there. It had seen some action. So Ben, what do you think about hardware wallets?
I agree with Martin. Either the Trezor is just it's just, I mean, they're the first hardware wallet, right? And they do such a great job, and that you just don't want it to break. And then, of course, if it does break, make sure that seed is somewhere safe, and that you have maybe a couple of copies. You have a copy which you secured yourself. You've written a few pages of split up and then written into a book or something, and then hidden away. Or you also have your Trezor, put it somewhere safe. Like, buy a safe. Do you remember Back to the Future when he has the arm in the back and he turns around to Biff? Is it Biff Jr.? He says, "Oh, have you got a safe? Put this in the safe." And then Biff Jr. says, "I've got a safe." He says, "Buy a safe. Buy a safe." The safe is buying a safe is one of the most important things you'll do. You can put your passports in, you're never going to lose them again. Put your driving license in, you're never going to lose it again. And then put your hardware wallet If you have like a significant amount, like I would advise having a wrench attack amount on a hardware wallet. So if someone, kidnaps you, and you can point them at a hardware wallet which has some Bitcoin on, it's going to sting you, but it's not going to be like all your stash. Also, having it hard to get to, I think, is like your main stash. Stops you from making rash decisions, particularly if you're kind of new to Bitcoin, which you probably are if you're thinking about buying a hardware wallet, and you're likely to make rash decisions when you see prices go up and down, and those rash decisions usually end up, not benefiting you because they haven't been thought out properly. You should always make those decisions sober. So your main stash, if you're putting a lot of money in Bitcoin, significant amount in Bitcoin, I would say make it, a day or a 2-day event to actually get that seed together and to be able to rebuild that cold storage Bitcoin. But yeah, a Trezor for day-to-day usage and for medium amounts and large amounts as well. Then use a Trezor. Just also make sure the seed with a Trezor, really the seed is the most important part, because if the Trezor breaks, you can always restore your Bitcoin from that seed. So just make sure you write them down, and then you make a couple of copies, give some to some family members. Say, here you are, here's 4 words, keep them really safe for me. Here's another 4 words, and then make sure you've got like 2 versions of the backup, and you should be all right. But yeah, Trezor's great. Highly recommend it. And in Alan Bits, we have an $8 hardware wallet, which is a bit more technical and advanced, but you can do batch transactions, taproot, and you can like create PSBTs. You can learn a little bit more about how transactions built and made, and then you sign it from the device and then broadcast it from the site. And I'll be doing a video tutorial on that really soon. But yeah, for general use, definitely a Trezor.
And we all think it's a fun idea to have a brain wallet, but that won't work out very well if someone smashes your brain, or as your brain gets older and older, you're likely to forget your words. Even if you sing them as a song every morning, it's still a bad idea. And remember, none of this is financial advice. Obviously, all of us learned the hard way that Trezors don't float, and we lost all of our keys in a boating accident. So do not take your private keys on a boat. Your Trezor does not float. We're almost out of time. Josh Shigala, do you have a prediction or a story of the week? Go ahead.
Story of the week is we went to NBX, which is like Next Block Expo here in Berlin, and it was epic. It was really big. It was cool. We served Glühwein for all the folks out there, and told them about the big event on Monday, which is the launch of the SRO. So check out thestandard.io. There's a really awesome yield farming opportunity for the first people that get in there. It's a liquidity base, so the more liquidity comes in, the less the discount becomes, and then the private vault to be launching soon too. So yeah, it's all very exciting. I'm mega tired. I've done like so many podcasts and stuff lately. I've just been on virtual tour, but it's been really fun too, meeting a lot of people, and yeah, so that was my story. And yeah, I really actually, it showed me how much I kind of missed events. I haven't gone to an event in like 2 years, apart from the one in Mallorca. So yeah, it was nice. It was nice.
That's very cool, Josh. Everyone knows during the bear market, people keep building, and you can probably get a good opportunity if you get there early to the standard.io. Like Josh is saying, providing liquidity for the standard could actually make you money. The earlier you get there, the better chance of that happening. Not financial advice, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely not.
Make your own decision and so forth. Martine Wishmayer, prediction or a story of the week?
Story of the week. We went week. It was a huge success. And we had through customs in time, which also highlights one of the problems there. I don't know if I told last time, but we launched a conversion kit for the Gen Mega Genesis coin ATM. So if you're using a Genesis coin and you're not happy with the fees you're paying, or with the software features that are like limited and not running anymore, then it's a few $100. You can conversion kit and turn it to a flashy new General Bytes ATM. At the price, we kept it low on purpose. So this way, if you find some dingy old ATM somewhere, It's the universal kiosk. Not even be a Bitcoin ATM. It could be universal kiosk that Gen Mega makes. Then get in touch, order yourself one of those conversion kits. And with the GM conversion kits, you'll have a General Bytes ATM in no time. Yeah, the reason I'm selling this is they're going fast. So there's already a backlog of hundreds of orders. So it will take some time. So, you know, get in touch with us as soon as possible to receive it before Christmas.
I think the real story of the week is Martine's internet connection, but it is a great program where General Bytes will let you upgrade your old ATM from another company with brand new General Bytes software that's secure and safe and lets you do all kinds of things that you probably couldn't do with your old software. A lot of these
story of his life, more like it.
A lot of these old ATMs, the company abandons them and there's no new software updates. You can't get the new stuff. So General Bytes is filling in that hole and giving you an option to make your old ATM into a new one. So very cool. Ben, ARC prediction or story of the week, go ahead.
So after being on the last show, I spent like 24 hours traveling and then did a bunch of tests all the way because, you know, got stuck in London because of the strikes, and then I spent the night there. Spent the night in a stinky hotel. Woke up feeling funny. Got on the train, came home, did a test before I entered the house, and then tested positive for the COVID. So I've been just hanging out outside, living in my my camper van and my shed, and that's also why I'm broadcasting from my sauna as well today. So that was the week. But El Salvador was great. Something I did mention last week was it was great. I bumped into a couple of our audience members, so that was a real privilege. Such as Rob as well. So hi, Rob, if you're out there. Yeah, so that was great. Also, we launched the shop for LM Bits, so it's a way to try and bring in some funds so we can like pay for some bits and bobs to be done. And I think that's it. Yeah.
It's a real European problem there. I had to broadcast from my sauna. Yes. Like good to have you back, Ben, and glad you got to do some traveling. I don't really have a story of the week or anything this week. It's Thanksgiving here in the US, so we had a nice meal with the family. You just have to avoid talking about politics, and at least this year avoid talking about Bitcoin. I saw a great chart on the internet. It was on my Twitter account, and the guy had passed it out where his family, every few years, they think he's a genius, but most of the time they think he's an idiot because the price of Bitcoin is usually down from its heights. And I saw a lot of great GIFs and other graphics people have made where it's like not talking about Bitcoin with the family and embarrassing gathering after you pumped it hard last year. So this is one of those down times where we seem like an idiot, but hopefully the halvening will save us in 2024 and so on and so forth. The core things about Bitcoin that you invested in are still there. It's just the price isn't there right now. So embarrassing to the family. But thanks again for everybody for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up down below. Thanks to everybody for chatting in the chat. It's good to have you guys with us live. It's Black Friday, a lot of sales out there at Amazon and other places. So enjoy your shopping. Maybe get some Bitcoin hats from a Bitcoin hat guy on Twitter. He's been providing my hats since 2013. I buy them, but he provides them. And it's great stuff out there. So thanks for joining us. Until next time. Bye.
Sell.
Bye.